Hey guys, it's Katie at scrappinkaty.ctmh.com, and I am bringing you another video in the Everyday Moments A through Z video series featuring the new Cricut collection from close to my heart called Everyday Moments. So I am just pulling up the Cricut collection here in Design Space, and I'm going to be using the Make-A-Wish image. So I'm going to click on that and insert it into my project. Now, this particular image is meant to be a 6x8 scrapbook layout for our everyday life albums, but I am going to make it into a gatefold card, hence the letter G correlation. So I'm just resizing this to 5x7, and then I'm going to ungroup the image so I can duplicate that back portion to start making the gatefold card. So I've ungrouped it. And then I've duplicated that back image, and I'm dragging it over to the right. And then I'm going to drag all the rest of the images, group those together, and drag those off because I will not be doing much with those. So in order to make a gatefold card, you need to have your 5x7 base and then two sides that fold together to equal the 5 inches. So I have duplicated that large rectangle, and then I'm going to resize it to 2 3/4. It's already 7 inches high. And then I'm going to do some measuring here to try to get it to overlap 1/4 inch. And then that way my the flap, once I add the score lines, will only be 2.5 inches. So I have done that, and then just kind of playing with the X and Y axis to make sure that it only overlaps 1/4 inch. So once I've done that, I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to do the same on the right side, making sure it only overlaps 1/4 inch, so 2.5 inches is what is extended past the 5-inch base, if that makes sense. So once I'm got all those lined up, I'm going to highlight them all, hit the align button, and I'm going to align them to the top. And then I'm going to highlight them all again, and I'm going to weld them together so it will be one solid piece. So now, in order to add score lines, I find that it's easier if I drag it over to the 0 x-axis and then insert a shape, which is a score line. And so I've done that, and then I'm going to play with the score line. Since the image is at the 0 x-axis, it's going to be really easy for me to move that score line to the 2.5 x-axis. And then that way I know that it is in the right spot. So that's what I'm doing here, is I am just changing that x-axis to 2.5, and then it'll move over. And then I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to put it to the 7.5 x-axis. And that is because that right side is at 10, and so 10 minus 2.5 would be 7.5. And then I'm just going to move it up a little bit, highlight all of those, and attach them. And then that way, when I send it to my Cricut Maker, it'll score in the right spots. And so here is a look at what the image looks like before I cut it. So I've cut everything off camera, and I'm just going to fold along those score lines and start assembling this layout that will actually be the focal piece to the inside of this gatefold card. So I'm just using liquid glass, and I'm just going over all those tiny places and then adhering down the cardstock, the various colors. I did really like the colors of the image, so I did not vary those at all. So I've got Lagoon, and then Candy Apple for the red, and then I've got Lemonade for the yellow. And these really go together really quickly. The only thing you'll see me doing every once in a while is just making sure that those shapes, those images are faced the same way. But it's just a matter of rotating them or picking up a different one. Now you want to remember that you're working from the back side of the image, and so you want to be laying down whatever cardstock, or if you're using pattern B&T, you want to be laying those down face down, so when you flip over the image, that's what shows through. And so there we have it, and I am going to use the white photo mat is what it was first intended to. That is what I'm going to write my sentiment on when I give this away. So this cupcake I am going to actually use on the front. It is intended to go right there to the left of the word wish, but I want to decorate the front up really cute as well. So for the front, I am going to pull out some old mix-ins, and I'm going to be cutting those to 2 1/4 by 6 3/4, because remember those flaps are 2 1/2 by 7, and that way I will have just a tiny border around those pieces of patterned paper. So I am just applying tape adhesive to the back of those, and then just going to adhere those down. And then I'm going to start making the band for the gatefold card. So this same mix-in pattern paper, I really like the zip strip. It had the same colors that are on the inside of this card. So I am just wrapping it around and then adhering it down, and then it'll slide off. I did do it pretty tight, so it's going to take me a while to kind of work with it, but once you pull it on and off a couple of times, you'll be surprised on how much that band loosens up. So now I'm just applying that assembled cupcake right there to the seam of where that zip strip came together to kind of hide where I adhered them together. And then I'm going to put the candle on the cupcake. So I chose to do it from behind the cupcake, but you could also do it on the front. And so I'm going to try this onto the card and see how it looks. And while that looks good, I just feel like it needs something else. So I've got a lemonade circle from a leftover project. So I'm going to adhere it to the back of that cupcake so it'll stand out. And again, I'm just using liquid glass because it can get in where my tape runner could not. And then I'm just going to make sure that's adhered really down well. And then now I'm pulling out some birthday sentiments to see which one I think I want to use. So I end up pulling out, or I end up using this sentiment one that can be found on my website in the online section, and I'll link it below. And I am using the sentiment that has to do with blowing you great wishes, because I love that candle on that cupcake and I just thought it was fitting. So I am going to put this belly band back on this gatefold card and show you how it looks. So here's the card. Again, the sentiment says blowing birthday wishes your way. Once you take it off, you can see what the inside of the card looks like. And there you have it. I will link the Design Space file down below. Thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the gray bell by the subscribe button. And don't forget to catch some of my other videos in this Everyday Moments A through Z video series.